Assalamualaikum and good day everyone. Today, I would like to share my self-reflection on my experience of completing the digital workforce assignment. This reflection is based on two chapters, which are chapter 1 and chapter 5. Chapter 1 is Introduction to Digital Workforce and chapter 5 is Working with Clients. When I first received this assignment, I honestly thought it would just be another presentation that needed to be completed before the deadline. My main concern at that time was finishing it on time while balancing my other coursework. However, throughout the process of researching, preparing my content, designing my slides, and recording my presentation, I realized that this assignment became much more meaningful than I expected. It wasn't just about explaining theories from the textbook. Instead, it encouraged me to reflect on my own learning experiences, how I communicate with others, and how I solve problems while working in a digital environment. In this reflection, I will share my preparation process, my learning experiences, the challenges I face, the skills I developed, and how these experiences have shaped my personal and professional growth. One of the first lessons I learned was that good preparation is much more important than having attractive presentation slides. Normally, when I receive an assignment, I tend to start designing the slides first because I enjoy creating visual presentations. However, for this assignment, I realized that understanding the content should always come before the design. I spent time reading both chapters carefully and tried to understand how the concepts related to my own experiences. Instead of only explaining theories, I reflected on actual situations that happened during my university projects. For chapter 1, I connected the topic with my experience of organizing an online webinar. During that project, my group used Google Meet for meetings, Canva for presentation design, Google Docs for collaboration, and WhatsApp for daily communication. Initially, I never thought much about using this platform because they had already become part of my daily routine as a student. But after studying the concept of digital workforce, I realized these are actually examples of how people collaborate in today's workplace. This made me realize that university assignments are not only helping us complete our studies, but also preparing us for future working environments. For chapter 5, I reflected on my experience communicating with teachers and school representatives during one of our projects. I realized that working with external stakeholders requires a different communication style compared to communicating with friends. Overall, preparing this reflection taught me that understanding the content deeply makes it much easier to explain ideas confidently. Throughout this assignment, I had the opportunity to apply what I learned to real situations instead of only understanding the theories. One experience that stood out to me was organizing the online webinar together with my group members. Although we were working remotely, we managed to complete our tasks successfully by using different digital platforms. At first, I assumed using several applications at once would become distracting and reduce our productivity. However, I discovered the opposite. As long as everyone understood their responsibilities and communicated clearly, using multiple digital tools actually improved our efficiency. This experience changed my perspective on multitasking. Previously, I believed multitasking always reduced focus, but now I understand that it can be effective when there is proper planning and teamwork. Another meaningful experience came from chapter 5. As one of the committee members who communicated with the school representative, I realized how important clear communication really is. At first, I felt nervous because I wasn't sure whether I completely understood their expectations. Instead of making assumptions, I decided to ask follow-up questions and send emails to confirm the discussions after every meeting. Although these actions seem simple, they help avoid misunderstandings and ensure everyone shared the same understanding. So, this experience taught me that professionalism isn't only about speaking formally, it is also about listening carefully, asking questions when necessary, and making sure communication is clear. For challenges and critical reflection, of course, not everything went smoothly throughout the assignment. One challenge we experienced was communication. Since our group used WhatsApp, Google Meet, and Google Docs simultaneously, important information was sometimes shared on different platforms. There were moments when I wasn't sure whether I had received the latest updates or whether someone had already made a decision. Initially, I thought the problem was caused by using too many digital platforms. However, after reflecting on the experience, I realized the real issue wasn't the technology itself. The problem was that we never established a clear communication structure from the very beginning. Another challenge was time management. Every group member had different schedules, assignments, and personal commitments. Finding suitable times for meetings was sometimes difficult, especially near submission dates. Looking back, I think we could have reduced this problem by preparing a clearer project timeline much earlier. Rather than seeing these challenges as failures, I now see them as valuable lessons. They taught me that successful teamwork depends not only on completing tasks but also on proper planning, communication, and organizations. For skills and personal growth, one of the biggest outcomes from this assignment was the development of both technical and soft skills. Technically, I became more confident using different digital tools for collaboration, communication, and presentation. More importantly, I learned how to adapt quickly whenever I needed to use unfamiliar platforms. Besides technical skills, I also developed stronger communication skills. I became more aware that communicating professionally involves more than simply delivering information. It also means listening carefully, confirming expectations, documenting discussion, and respecting other people's perspective. Personally, this reflection also helped me recognize my own strengths and weaknesses. One strength I discovered is that I enjoy learning new digital tools whenever they are needed. However, I also realize that I sometimes hesitate to ask questions because I worry they might sound unnecessary. After completing this reflection, I now understand that asking questions is actually a strength because it prevents misunderstandings and improves teamwork. I also became more responsible because I realized my work doesn't only affect me, it also affects the progress of my teammates. This has encouraged me to become more organized and accountable whenever I work in a group. So lastly, to conclude, this assignment gave me much more than academic knowledge. It encouraged me to reflect on how I learn, communicate, and work with others in a digital environment. Although I know I still have many areas that need improvement, I also recognize how much I have grown throughout this experience. The lessons from both Chapter 1 and Chapter 5 have helped me understand that being successful in today's digital workplace requires much more than technical knowledge. Adaptability, communication, teamwork, professionalism, and continuous learning are equally important. Moving forward, I hope to continue improving these skills throughout my university journey so that I will be better prepared for future career opportunities. Overall, this assignment wasn't simply about completing another assessment. It became an opportunity for me to understand myself better and prepare for the challenges of the modern workplace. So that's all from me. Thank you for your attention.